recording? We're recording now.
So now we're both using my microphone that is not as well. It's kind of omnidirectional, just fucking condenser mic picking up shit, and yours. Can you talk onto yours to hear?
What? So you can hear me on your microphone? Because I mean, obviously things recording in this room, so it's going to hear things.
Yeah.
Is this normally where people sit when they're okay? So typically your podcast has like it's like I guess it typically sounds like you're close enough to be heard, but the other person's even farther away.
No, we're supposed to be equidistant.
Does it normally sound that way? Because I feel like I'm going to sound. I mean, you're not going to use your Snowball audio. I don't think.
I have been so far.
Yeah, but you didn't have somebody else bringing in equipment to record.
You think these 58s are that good? I mean, I love the 58s.
You know, maybe you'd listen to my podcast.
I would hear how high quality audio it is. Maybe I got to get one of these
this,
fucking things you got here.
Well, this is what we're holding in our hands right now. What we're working with is about, I think, $600 worth of equipment.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I mean,
I started with so that's $100 saved.
Yeah, I know.
It's about $400 for that unit.
I did the math. There's two 58s. They're 100 apiece. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what you know.
You don't.
Maybe you might have found the SM58. You might have just like came across it.
No. I bought it a long time. Actually, a friend of mine might have given it to me.
See, there you go.
But I have bought one before.
Look, you know what, dude? Like, and I'm not. It's not a slight against you. It's just the fact there's so many comics I talk to who don't even know what an SM58 is, and it kind of surprises me because I'm just like, if you've been open micing for like 2 years,
yelling in a band for 20-something years, so like I know what a 58 is.
I mean, I'm wrong, but it's just that I have this attitude of like, why wouldn't you learn everything you could about the field that you're in? And like, as a comic, it's like one of the things I'm definitely going to do is like figure out like what's the most common microphone that you use at open mics, so that I can like make sure if I need one, I can go get one. And it's the SM58.
Right.
Are we still good?
Yeah, it looks like the sound's working.
It is working, man. I don't know what else you think. You look nervous, as if there's something you might be overlooking.
I'm just trying to make sure that the levels are good enough that they're not going to overload and that they'll still be audible.
But be honest with me right now. Are you worried that are you concerned over your audio because you don't believe me when I say the audio of my equipment is good, or are you just
no? I'm just in general. We're using your shit again also today, but like in general, when I do the podcast, I've been using this way, so I have to have it be able to work right, or else. I see. I mean, and it ain't the best audio. But
how many episodes are you into?
5.
Okay, cool. What's this podcast called?
Yeah, I don't have a name for it yet.
Of course not. Why did I think there was? Is it on iTunes, or is it like?
No, that would cost money.
Yeah, no, you gotta go. You gotta go to your local
YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've only put one of them up yet.
Oh, really?
But I have like a few more.
Let me know when this one goes up. I'll definitely promote it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, dude. I'm all about,
telling the 10 people you have in your...
Well, I was going to be more about, like, I'm all about
I
being
have 10 people too.
and promoting
We're just both
the
in a
shit that I'm on.
Really
I just get annoyed by how many people, like, I brought on my podcast, and they've seemed to make little to no effort to, like, share it. And it's like, yeah, but if you're on an episode of Joe Rogan, you'd be shouting about that to the rooftop. So just, like... Why? Like I get annoyed by people who think that like certain things are worth sharing than others. Like don't do someone's podcast show if you're not going to promote it. I say that I probably have forgotten to promote at least one podcast I've been on, but
that's how you learn.
That's a mistake.
To say what you just said. You're like, you know what, I should have, and then you go, everybody should.
Yeah, everyone should. I think if you're on a podcast, you should do everything you can to promote it. On at least your Instagram, dude.
So, we'll get to that later. I have to, again, like I said, I'm new to, I'm not new to social media, but I am new to using social media. I generally don't use it.
Is that why you brought me here? Do you want me to open you up to like the ins and outs and the do's and don'ts of social media?
No, I'm
familiar with
I'm
the wrong guy.
I'm familiar with that stuff.
Wrong dude.
Again, as we were talking on your podcast, I'm not into petty squabbles.
Yeah.
So I am not into social media.
Fair enough.
Speaking.
No, that's a very good argument.
Because we talked extensively about that, your love for...
Although Twitter is like the petty squabble platform.
Yes, very much so. But that's the main thing that
Facebook is the petty bitching platform. And then Instagram is like the petty advertisement platform, like because Instagram's not very volatile. Since it's pictures, it's mostly propaganda and advertisement. Like it's not people aren't arguing on Instagram,
right? Which is
They're
one of
just
the good things about
thoughts.
it. It doesn't systematically have a means for petty squabbles,
right?
But Twitter is designed.
It's
hyper optimized.
I watched that Jack Dorsey interview on Joe Rogan. Speaking of the best podcast in the world, and it was very fascinating to me how like he seems to have like a completely different view as to what Twitter is in the world and what it will be and what it's like meant for.
You think his billionaire status ownership of the company would cloud his vision?
Well, that or he's just straight up lying.
Yeah, because he owns the company.
But it just I was blown away by that.
Every owner of every
it's just
company
one of those
lies
things where just
as a
like
matter of course.
It's just one of those things where just like it's like I'm trying to think of a product like
I mean I get
it's
it.
Like it's like if everyone who's using a George Foreman grill watched George Foreman saying that this thing was actually made for ironing on patches on your jacket, you'd be like, wait a minute.
I find it hard to believe that the not just Dorsey but everybody at the top and helm of Twitter in the initial stages was like, okay, send the engineers back in. We have to make it more optimized for petty squabbling. I want people to be fighting blah, blah, blah. I want because every interaction is a different impression, and that's more advertised, blah, blah, blah. They went full corporate douche with it, as any successful company would have. It's just the nature of the beast. I'm not knocking them. I see why they do it. I see why all companies do the shitty things they do.
Money.
Yes. People will do things, and people will definitely try to get people to fight for money. That's one of the oldest things in fucking human history. I bitch about it on stage all the fucking time.
What's older, petty squabbles or people fighting each other for money?
Well, petty squabbling kind of happens naturally because we're dumb apes, like I've said before. And then the smarter person who witnesses the petty squabbles goes, maybe I can exploit this for something. And then they start exploiting the fighting for whatever, and then it becomes even more incentivized for people to, there's like an extra
you heard that
level of
recent like
consciousness
development, and then this doesn't really sound like news, but I guess it is like official if like they've done scientific research on it. But like Facebook has realized that like the algorithm like favors anger and like
they just now discovered that like
right,
they didn't have that in-house in 2008.
It's one of those things you're just like well that kind of makes sense. But it is kind of interesting to have them actually acknowledging it because it makes you realize like, oh right, we haven't really been talking about how like this is how our like how we say it's social media, but this is how our society works. Like things that make you outraged or things that will get you to talk more, things that will get you to like interact more, to act more, and that's
especially interact in a superficial way and interact in a bullshit infighting way because that in a dumb way.
Yeah, I guess
our
that's true.
culture especially is inculcated with the means to fight the petty squabbling or whatever. It's very good for the economy. As I've said before, like our education system, everything is we're raising suckers in America. We want suckers because we want people to fucking consume bullshit.
But we're raising the greatest suckers this world has ever seen.
That's true. The best suckers in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the greatest country of suckers you've ever seen.
You are the best sucker in the world.
I mean, here's the thing I will argue is just like, who are you saying other countries don't have suckers? Like, you're saying
no, they do, and every authoritarian system, to varying degrees, will attempt to inculcate the population with the mental apparatus of suckerdom,
like
whatever.
Is there a country that you think we should be like modeling ourselves after?
There are many. Yeah, fuck. I mean, there are elements of. There's no country that's perfect. I shit on them all.
Okay, so which one? Which one did most
there
of all?
Are aspects like I was talking with a friend of mine the other day. Who was visiting here from another country, and yeah, I was doing a bit on that, like but basically, there are certain countries like this one. This is the main economic motor of the world, and partly because, in terms of treating the apes in every country as farm animals, which is a common metaphor that's been used before many times, we try to run our cattle hard here. We run them very hard. We whip them hard with desperation and coercion at every turn. Our society is built around, and I complain about this on stage regularly, trying to make jokes out of the horror. But it's
when you say it that way, I can understand why people maybe don't find the humor you're talking about.
Oh yeah, no, because I think things are funny that are not funny to most.
You seem to be more horrified by it than anyone.
Right, but the thing is, it's our society is based in making people dumb and desperate.
Well, I think, and I mean, okay, first of all, most people are naturally dumb. I don't think we make people dumb.
No.
I
My
think
point
we
is
exploit
yes,
the
everybody's dumb, but every
hold
society
them to
tries
know.
to make them smarter, or they try to do the opposite. They try to make them into suckers. Our society tries to make
what
people into
society
suckers.
is actively trying to make its population smarter?
Some of the Scandinavian countries, as I was going to cite before, my friend from Finland is they don't have certain things that we have here. They don't have homelessness there, or they do, as she was pointing out. They have people who just want to be homeless. And I immediately said to her, because I know the system to some degree, I was like, yes, but those homeless people, they get paid by the government, right? And she's like, oh yeah, they have plenty of money. And I was like, oh, and they also can get free food whenever. They totally
can
get, they can get food, whatever.
They have a bank account?
Yeah, they're all. They just want to live outside. I was like, they just want to live. They're just camping in their city. They're just. Yeah,
they're not giving
homeless.
Them money. Why?
They're not homeless out of desperation because they live in a democratic socialist country or whatever. Because their society doesn't feed off desperation. The engine of their progress is not suffering to the same degree. It still is to some extent. Every country still is to some extent. But our system is based on starving people and exposing them to the elements, homelessness and such, and the weather. And if you don't work hard, we will starve you to death. That is the ethics of this society. And until that changes, and that should fucking change.
How will it change?
It won't. I argue all the time on stage that it won't. It's a very powerful set of assholes that are keeping that structure in place. And countries like fucking Denmark or Finland are not about to fucking be like a shining light that offers a solution, because the architects of this system are perfectly happy whipping the cattle to get profit in that way.
I was talking to Nick Jordan a week ago.
Who?
Nick Jordan.
Don't know.
You know who Nick Jordan is.
I don't think I do.
You've been to the fourth wall a dozen times. You've seen this guy.
Maybe.
Thin white dude. Looks kind of like a Proud Boy. Talks about like a lot of right-wing stuff. Basically,
What's he look like?
He looks kind of like
long
a Proud
hair, short
Boy.
hair.
Short hair, like blonde hair. You know what a Proud Boy looks like, right?
Yeah, like Gavin.
Then what?
Like Gavin, the founder.
Yeah, because this guy has no mustache or beard. He's got a clean-shaven face. Typically, usually wears a leather jacket, but not probably in this weather. And talks a lot of. He has a very Dennis Miller esque kind of like
worldview.
routine. Well, worldview
and
routine,
worldview. So at the end of every joke, he goes and.
Maybe I don't know. I guess like more blue collar, like maybe Jeff Foxworthy kind of too. Like Jeff Foxworthy means Dennis Miller, like just a very well, of course America doesn't understand the common man and what he's going through. It's just like, and he's got a lot of. But we were talking about taxes and shit like that, and right. I was holding my own a little bit because like I don't really know what I'm talking about. But in this
congratulations to you then for being able to bullshit your way through.
Well, because they just like, all I know how to do is ask questions that make sense to me. But with your situation, I'm like, well, yeah, there's a way for us to solve homelessness. It's by the government giving you money. I'm all for it. But what I will say is, and I don't know enough about Finland or its culture, but like, we have welfare. We have like certain programs that
we have some.
They give you money.
And keep in mind, there are a great many conservative and Republicans
and a lot of people
that opposed every step of the way of getting that welfare, the minimal welfare that we have in this country.
And I'll say whether or not I think we should have it, but I also think that their argument that there's a lot of people who abuse it and just kind of like use it as like a way of doing nothing.
No, that's a very common thing.
Because those people who have money and live outdoors probably also have adjusted to a lifestyle.
Here's the thing too, what you were just saying about damn those moochers, damn the lazy assholes who just use it as a way to do
your
nothing.
Words,
and
not mine.
And I say, I don't care. If 80% of the people want to sit on their ass and do nothing, then and in a just society, they would have the freedom to do so.
Right, but if 80% of the people want to have houses they don't take care of, that they don't maintain, they end up destroying and breaking and ruining, and we have to have and drive and walk on roads. Why would that shit on? And
why would that? Keep in mind the hypothetical scenario you're painting here is one in which taxpayer funding pays for even the most low income and irresponsible, as you would say, as you were just characterizing them,
right?
Just irresponsible, inconsiderate asshole douchebags. Even if the government was paying for that, then surely they would clean up their fucking yards also.
Those people or the government?
No, the government. I'm saying in this hypothetical scenario, if they're getting them the house, they would put upkeep of the house in the contract.
Right, and what I'm saying, we mean upkeep of the house.
Like I'm saying that they would take their inconsiderateness into account.
Right, and that costs money, and that's infrastructure. And that's
yes, it does cost money, not nearly as much as the fucking empire.
As what empire?
the military empire that sucks $1.5 trillion a year.
This is where I believe I made a good point against Nick. It's like Nick believes in no taxes and having a voluntary like country where like you don't have to like pay to be there and stuff like that. And I was like, that's great and all. You have this idea. He has an idea of a country with borders. Like,
keep in mind, you could have a lot less taxes. That's one of the things too. So I have a lot of friends who are libertarians, and they agree with me. All I was going to say
was that you need. Here's the thing: this is the foundation of America, the country that you love to live in. And I know, and I'm not saying I necessarily condone this, but you have to appreciate this and accept it. We are a country that basically became the way we are because we decided, you know what, we're going to have the best fucking military in the world, so no one can ever take anything from us.
That's not why they did it, but I get
why do they do it.
But let me finish my other point first. The if I can fucking remember it now, the nature of that assumption, I would say it's misguided. That the fact that a libertarian often is against the empire as well.
Yeah,
and would say that, you know what, if we weren't spending the $1.5 trillion or whatever the fuck a large amount it is on the military every year, and we're instead helping, people with all sorts of different welfare, including the universal basic income type, where we just pay people to be lazy, whatever.
Yeah.
Even still, we would have so much money to do that by not having the empire that, people perceive high taxes and such. But I talked to my friend. She said she pays 20% income tax in Finland, and she pays 8% healthcare tax to get free healthcare. So she pays 28% of it, and she's middle income. She makes like $60,000 a year.
Okay.
And she pays 20. So she pays less taxes than an American because Finland doesn't have a fucking military empire.
Okay.
So you can afford to do things and afford to tax less.
And if Russia just decided they wanted
I'm familiar with the situation there.
Finland.
They are scared of Russia. They are definitely have the Sarah Palin outlook of they can see Russia from their house and they're shitting themselves.
You know who's not scared of Russia?
Yeah, the United States.
Right.
Yeah,
you know why?
Do you know who should be scared of Russians?
Who?
Putin. Because he's going to be overthrown.
But
and his team,
you're doing the same thing Nick did, where you're just jumping from topic to topic.
No, my point is that I understand that there are asshole regimes in the world, and they have to be defended against blah, 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 all that.
It's not even a matter of being defended against. It's just using pure logic of, like, looking at, like, the country as your house, right?
Right.
Like, if you've got a nice house and you want to make sure no one can break into your house or take your house or blow your house down, if you think logically through game theory, just like what makes the most sense to make sure that I can sustain.
The wolves.
Right.
From blowing your house down.
Right. And it becomes an arms race. I mean, I know it's so funny. I hated that fucking Dr. Seuss story, the bread butter story. You know what I mean? You know
I don't remember that one.
There's one where there's these two different like species on different sides of the wall, and one believes that you should butter the bread on top, and the other one believes you should butter the bread on the bottom. That's awesome. It literally causes all-out war. To the point that they're constantly inventing newer devices to threaten the other side with in case they decide to like. First they build a wall. Right. And then they start threatening to take over the side and force them to like butter the bread on their side, and they start they basically get into an arms race, and it gets to the point where like each side invents a dot that can annihilate the entire world.
Hell yeah!
Like a pill.
This is a Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah, and they both stand, and one person from the military stands at the edge of that wall with their pill, threatening the other one to drop it. And it ends right there because there's nowhere else to go.
Right.
And it's just this idea of like,
because he doesn't want to end a Dr. Seuss book with a fucking
annihilation.
Yeah.
Well, but it's obviously an analogy for the world and the current state we live in, where it's just like we're constantly on the brink of total annihilation over petty squabbles.
Yeah, but I would argue again, it's not over petty squabbles, but it's off of people exploiting the human tendency for petty squabbling.
But my point is that what you have to understand though is like there's that rational like mindset of like, okay, yeah, it's like obviously at a certain point we should just be like, well, let's just all get along. But when you think about like just like tactics and game theory, it's like all it takes is one person say, yeah, I'm gonna get along. Yeah, let's all just make peace. But then they build a weapon in their back in their shed and annihilate everybody.
Here's a different angle of like what I would talk about with and often do on stage or whatever. That story is a good analogy for another thing as well. It's not about the fight. In fact, the fight is just the PR to keep the feedback loop going. The point of what is wanted is, and that story apparently talks about that. The point is to build the economy of each side, to build the devices on each side.
Yes.
That is the point. Is the fight is an engine of growth. The fight and the competition are an engine of making products, increasingly complicated products, in this sort of arms race dynamic on either side. Now, that dynamic can be accomplished without a hot war or a cold war. We're stupid apes still, but we could transcend that era of human economy in that we don't need to have a fight or a threat in order to propel us. If we need that as a propeller indefinitely in the future, we are going to be in the dot scenario or whatever at the end of that book. And that's the problem. That the real point is like either we need to expand the complexity of our technology, and we need to constantly work really hard to do that. Now, what's going to make us do that? Because we're afraid of the neighbor doing that? Or because we get past that and finally get off our ass and do shit for better reasons than
here's the thing.
Putting us all in danger.
I grew up wanting to be a Jedi, dude. I was like all about peace and love and like let's get past like.
I didn't just make a hippie argument. I made a
I'm sorry.
Technology
I didn't mean to dismiss it because what I'm saying is I believe that too. But what I've also realized is when you're just thinking logically on a tactical perspective. Where it's just like, well, yeah, it would be nice if we could all agree to get past these.
I was saying we need to advance our tactics to transcend the need for violent conflict to propel our economies.
But you have to. Okay, so you have
we can use competition, but there should be
you have two factions, right?
Or a gauge behind which we don't go, or whatever.
You have two factions who are at war with each other. And one's like, you know what? Let's transcend this shit and stop being violent. And the other faction's like,
before it gets to that. You have to get it before it gets. These are again.
But it could always get back to that.
Yes, these are dynamical systems. They could get back to any sort of.
You have two societies that are completely living in peace, right? They're in peace together. They've transcended violent nature and stuff like that. They go 100 years without ever fighting each other, and then somebody does things so fucked up that the other one gets so outraged that they decide, you know what, I'm going to kill one of your guys because it was just a moment of
they would understand that somebody doing something fucked up happens, and we have to do the best we can to prevent that, but we do not overreact and create a whole spiraling of violence because of the act of the crazy person.
Okay, but one of them, someone fucks up, right? Somebody accidentally gets into a car
I'm not saying it would be
kills the other society, the other factions.
It would take work to do this,
son, right? And that person realizes, you know what? I think I still have a nuke somewhere. I can just nuke them.
Exactly. You will have people who will do crazy violent things on any side of anything, and the point is that I was talking more tactically again as the engine of growth in an economy, the means whereby we keep expanding our technology at a faster and faster rate. We can do so without a threat. We can do so without an enemy. We can do so without coercion if we spent time trying to unlock those methods.
I'm all for that. And I believe that, and I think chasing that, I think that's an ideal. And I think chasing that ideal is invaluable for our
opposed to currently progress. Chasing the international squabbles method that is currently being used.
No, well, I was going to say, but at the same time, you also have to chase that ideal while also being aware of the reality.
Oh,
of the
I'm aware of the reality. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying dismantle the reality.
These weapons exist, and we need to figure out how to create better weapons to combat those weapons. Knowing that those people will be working hard.
Again, that's a presumed solution that has failed through time. That the fact that in order to defend against a weapon, that you have to make a more dangerous weapon. No, I'm aware. The point is there are ways of winning conflicts even that do not include chasing an arms race dynamic indefinitely.
Yeah.
There are ways to do it. There are ways you have to discover to do that might solve that. I'm not saying that they all exist. I'm saying that we should be thinking about and trying to arrange for other models to try to get past. I would argue that the authoritarian model of needing a threat to propel your workers is a very Middle Ages backwoods mindset that actually, although it produces a lot for an economy, it does not produce enough, or it doesn't produce nearly as much as it would if we figured out a way where people wouldn't be lazy, but they also wouldn't be propelled to not be lazy by threats.
Well, that seems that we're leaving the whole why do we fund our military most and like why we built such a big military to going back to like instilling fear in your society with starvation.
Yeah, it's all connected. Yes.
Well,
the war, the threat of the foreigner attacking you is part of the same.
I think they definitely fold into each other, but I think they're separate things.
They are separate, but they're
attack. I think,
but so is starvation and homelessness.
I think we can, and even if we did, we can get rid of the whole. Let's make everyone terrified of starving to make them work. We could do that and still fund the military that we have.
We do that. You mean get rid of it?
We can get rid of the fear. We can get rid of making people terrified of starving and still fund the military that we have.
Yeah, but my point is we could get rid of the making people fear starvation and keep the making them fear foreign invasion to work hard. There are all these fears that we use to get people to work hard.
Yeah, I know.
And we could dismantle all of those.
Well, the working hard thing, using fear as a motivation to work hard, I totally agree with taking it away. I don't necessarily think that us curtailing our military spending and research and whatever word I'm looking for, interest is necessarily helpful. For me, it makes total sense. Because if you live in a country, in a world where there's other people with different beliefs than you have, where those beliefs might contrast so greatly to yours that they think, like, we'll kill them when we have a chance.
Remember, that's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because someone is exploiting that belief.
Right. But you have to acknowledge that someone like that exists, and you need to make sure that you take care of yourself.
Yeah, but remember, I'm saying that those people and that thought exists, but not in the scale necessary for violent conflict on a nation scale. So what needs to be done is that needs to be amplified, and the people who exploit the squabbling are the ones who actually amplify the squabbling to a level where it's an actual national threat. So you're talking about
corporations that exploit the military-industrial complex?
Yeah.
So they're making money, or the ones who are also enforcing it? Yeah, I mean, probably.
Corporations and government agencies too. It's not just a private interest, but there's public interest for power and position and status.
I'm all about finding the disease, not the symptoms.
Right.
But I guess my point is I don't actually think the military itself and the way we fund it is the disease. The military-industrial complex, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. It's not just the industry. The complex
but
is
we do have
comprised of the industry and the bureaucrats.
I can't deny that we need to, like, I understand the logic as to why we spend so much money on the military and why we care so much.
You understand the logic?
Yeah.
I mean, I get what
you
want to
be. You want to be the guy with the biggest dick at the table because you end up getting to make more decisions.
Well, a better analogy than Cox is poker. The person with a substantial large amount of chips, way beyond what the other people have, is going to win.
Yeah,
based on their scale alone.
Well,
not their talent at playing the game.
The analogy I used that really actually opened my eyes to it was Magic the Gathering.
I've never played it.
Well, so I'll try to explain it to you in a way that hopefully will make it a one-to-one metaphor. But like basically, it's a collectible card game, right? Where you buy packs of cards. There's different cards in each pack, and you use each card has certain abilities and techniques and things they can do to be used in the game of playing Magic. And you build a 60-card deck using whatever cards you have to make the best, most powerful deck you can to play other people against other people. It's kind of like if you mix Pogs and playing cards.
It's kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons board game.
Right, but with
collectible
with collectibleness and the rarity added to it. So ideally, what would happen is that like you and your friends go to the comic book store and buy card packs. Maybe you get 3 packs or 4 packs. You get cards, you trade them, you build the best thing you can,
and people increasingly build a better and better deck.
Right, but the reality of what happens is that people who have money go on eBay and buy the best cards they possibly can, and end up building $1,000 decks with cards that they don't even make anymore from years ago.
So they could just steamroll everybody.
Just annihilate the competition.
Yeah.
And if that isn't a great example as to what the capitalist war machine is, I don't know what is, because that makes you realize, like, at the end of the day, like, that's why chess is such a great game, is because at the end of the day you can't throw down $20 and buy a new queen.
Right.
It's all strategy. It's all a matter of, like, you know what? I have my resources and I have to use them to the best of my ability to strategize and find a way to outwit you. But card games, and the reason why I use Magic the Gathering as an example of this is because this is actually now an industry. There's tons of different collectible card games all over the country, and there's tons of games that have like special things.
Because however smart these nerds that are playing this is, they didn't realize that the foundation of their game structure can be compromised by money.
Well, they do realize they just don't care. because capitalism is such a foundation of our culture now that it's seen as a reasonable way of enjoying your time.
Right.
And,
perhaps in the future you will be able to buy a queen for $20.
Winning a game. And it's because at the end of the day it's true, and that's our entire, that's at least at the very least America's tactic, if not I think almost any military country's tactic, is just that like you want to have the best deck.
I'm familiar with.
And you want to spend and whoever has the most money is going to have the best deck.
Yeah, no,
and you're to spend every resource you
have.
Maybe
you were misunderstanding my argument. My argument wasn't to have a shitty deck.
But
my argument was that the best deck. My argument was that currently, as things are applied in the world, yes, the strategy the United States government is taking is the best strategy to get the biggest deck. Yes. Definitely, I'm arguing that there is other strategies as yet untried, as yet untested, and understandably they don't want to test it because they already have the best deck. But potentially better solutions in the landscape of possible solutions that will dwarf the current level of big deck. The deck will be so giant. That's the argument I'm making. I'm not making some fucking hippie argument.
Here's another aspect of Magic that I failed to mention. They keep making new cards. They keep on making brand new cards and new rules and stuff like that. So you always have to buy more cards. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they make their money.
So right, but that's how the military-industrial complex makes money. They keep on making new weapons, and you have to keep up with everyone else's new weapons.
And you have to keep using the weapons.
I totally agree that, and in your mind, it's like, well, why not find a different game for us to play?
Yes, and also,
but you still want to win at Magic, and you still want to spend that money.
Again, because human beings are such sad, stupid apes, they're damn dirty apes. I think somebody characterized it once as. It's a movie.
Yeah, I know it, but he was talking to apes. He wasn't talking about people.
Well, it was a whole allegory.
I don't think so. That was just I mean, maybe.
You don't think Planet of the Apes was a metaphor?
I guess the apes kind of were Mexican in a way. They were like immigrants.
The apes, the Planet of the Apes.
I don't know. That makes sense though because they have science.
There's a lot of literary theory about how Planet of the Apes was meant to be a ethnic sort of
cleansing.
No, well, yeah, but it was meant to depict. The politics of ethnicity,
right?
But now you're making me forget my original point, which was
we're talking about Magic decks and how they make more cards and how I'm saying like you want us to play a different game, but we still got to play Magic because you want to be the best Magic player. Your whole
said that the whole I'm arguing for a bigger, way bigger deck with different strategies. Understandably, they don't want to try another strategy because they've already got the best strategy in the current field of strategies.
Well, it's also because they have the best cards.
Most successful.
It's just like
yes, I know, but they got the best cards.
It's not a matter of finding different cards or building a better deck. It's a matter of playing a different.
And I've
game.
often on stage I've joked about that. Hey, any countries out there that are not that powerful, like if Sweden or Ecuador would like to take over the world, I can totally help you out with that. I know a lot of the traits that make the United States as powerful as it is, and the ones that are inhibiting it from becoming more powerful.
I think you want us to move from playing Magic to playing the chess, to being more about.
Yes, that's the other point I was going to make. I think that the structure of the game is important. The rules of the game are important, and there are certain things. That was the point I was going to make. Additionally, was that there are certain things that should not be allowed to be sold. We have. For the most part, at least on paper, now say that we should not have human slavery as an economic component. We also, I would say, by the same logic, should not have war as an economic component. That it should be outlawed just the same because, again, in a future society where there's an economy that is much more intelligent, it would have transcended both slavery and war. But in lieu of that, we have to... fuck.
How did that happen?
My computer fucking up? Maybe it'll come back. But luckily we're recording.
Then. We've got a recording anyway.
Yeah. But
see,
I
feared.
Looking
out for you though, dude. That's me. I was like, okay, now I see why.
Oh yeah, my computer's fucking up, or it'll come back, or the program just freezes, and it seems that's what's happening. But yeah, I got the point across. Of my point is that certain things, in lieu of the sort of pseudo approximation of a utopian eventuality that we may achieve as human society, in lieu of that, we had to get rid of slavery, and I mean, it still exists, and we should still try to get rid of it fully. But we also should have gotten rid of war as a just
but here's my question for you. Okay, so listen, we get rid of war, right? We get Russia and we get China to agree, but then two small countries start warring with each other. How do we stop them?
Are you making the argument? I'm trying to fix this computer thing. You making the argument that
you just want to focus on fixing the computer? We can just stop this podcast.
No. The say
like 30
repeat
moments.
what you said.
So you're like we should outlaw war. So we outlaw war, right? The country outlaws the whole world. Most countries come together and outlaw war, but then 2 countries decide, hey, fuck it, I'm gonna kill anyone who gets in my way of destroying.
They try to pursue the old strategy,
right? And how do we stop them?
We would have to
annihilate them.
Figure out a way to do that.
Oh, I love.
I mean, I assume that people would already have solved that. That would be one of the things that we would have needed to solve in order to.
Well, we haven't solved it yet. We haven't solved how you stop people from starting war. We haven't figured that out yet.
Right. That's correct. But my argument,
we're working on it.
If we had,
we're trying to build a missile that'll wipe out an entire country.
If we had discovered a way to, for the major powers to try different methods, why would a smaller country choose the old, much shittier method when everybody has the more modern methods?
Right. We don't have the modern method right now is I'll threaten you with a nuclear war device. That's the modern method.
Yeah, but I think there are other methods out there. We don't need. I think if human beings can't think of a better way to propel their populations than via threat, whether it's threat of starvation, threat of homelessness, threat of war, threat of whatever, then our species sucks ass and is really a lot dumber than we have other ways. I fixed it.
Yeah, way to go, man.
But the point is, there'll be a little gap that I'll fix with your,
Yeah, no problem.
But there are ways, and I'm sure if you point all the great minds that exist in government agencies and corporations towards that end, they could come up with some really good shit instead of pointing them progressively at this endless arms race sort of model.
Right, that's an optimistic attitude about the human condition.
Or you make the arms race, you keep accelerating it past the use of arms. So you keep the competition going without any actual threat.
I'm not denying that, dude, but you're kind of like an iPhone owner who's being like, I just think you can make a better one of these.
Without having the better one of these.
And without having the knowledge of how they even work or how to make one.
No.
You're like, I just feel like this thing should be able to copy and paste, dude. It's like, yeah, well, can you code? No. Well, then shut the fuck up and enjoy the iPhone until we get the new one out.
I understand, but I was not arguing from a position of total ignorance. I do think that
I actually have investigated the matter, and I found this wonderful new way for us to avoid war that no one will listen to me to.
Well, the point is that it's not like it's a new... just understanding the method. I mean, the first method I said, the earliest method, like I just said, we haven't still figured out a way, economically speaking, on pure economics, to transcend human slavery. But at a certain point, people said, you know what, fuck that, we're going to outlaw it. So,
right, and yet there's still slavery in some places, and we still arrest people and put them in prison.
I know. I'm saying it still exists. It's not fully abolished, but it should be fully abolished, and it will be, hopefully, eventually fully abolished. My point was that in lieu of the model, and actually something that propels the model, a legal restriction against exploiting warfare for money would go a long way. So similarly to the laws outlawing slavery, we should have laws outlawing war. Profiting off of war in any way, not just for private corporations, but for government bureaucrats, generals, politicians. If any of the ways that we know, political scientists have outlined them extensively, any of the way that those fuckers can exploit a war, if they are ever caught doing that, there is a hefty jail time for them. If a politician like Trump wants to fucking kick some dirt up in a fucking,
jail time, isn't that slavery though?
No. It's like crime. It's a crime, just like slavery. If you're caught trafficking human beings, you get arrested.
You do, and you understand that like we can have slaves if we arrest them. Like you can arrest someone.
Yes, I am familiar with that. I would also outlaw the whole prison labor.
So
system.
why? So what is jail then after that? What does jail become?
Well, slightly similar to what they have for jail in like countries like Finland.
What's jail in Finland like?
Apparently a lot better. Michael Moore had that movie where, of course, it's going to look better, and it is better though. It's a much less violent place. It's a much less fucking horrific.
Oh, really?
Place. Oh yeah. I mean, there are still psychos there, people who killed people, whatever.
Oh, really?
But they are given substantially more freedom, and they are there's less of a
so it sounds like Finland's kind of like
rape fest that is our American style justice system.
Jesus, yeah, no, that's
so the point is there are ways to improve these things, and like I said, despite not having the future economic model, what helps propel us to the future economic model, even the much better economic system in a lot of ways that we have today, despite its many corruptions, is the outlawing of slavery. The outlawing of slavery went a long way to making people think in other domains and be more creative and be more innovative. And similarly, the outlawing of profiting off of war would do the same.
Sounds like Finland's a lot like Alderaan.
It's going to get blown up by the dust.
Right, just like nice peaceful little like city that just sits by like this imperial like power that's eventually going to use it as an example to blow it up.
They are. I mean, that is something that many people would say. Hey, Finland's under the protection of NATO or whatever, or else they would be taken over by Russia.
Right.
And these are real situations. My point is not to make us into Finland. It's to take useful information like the abolition of slavery and apply it to war.
I'm definitely all for the reforming prisons. I think they're horrible.
But before we get to that, because we will get to that, but the war thing, to outlaw war, to outlaw profiting off of war, would go a long way. I'm not saying to outlaw war. I'm not even saying to dismantle the entire military bureaucracy. I'm saying that if you took away the right for a politician or a general or a corporate executive or a stockholder to make money or get power off of war, that would substantially change the landscape. The incentive landscape.
It sounds just like taxes. People would find a way to avoid getting caught. You know what I mean?
And it's just like slavery. People found a way to avoid it. They do it with prison labor.
Right.
And not just private prisons, but the vast majority are public prisons, where they still corporate America exploits the fuck out of a free or very super cheap third world price labor force, and that should be outlawed. And I in fact on my first stand-up album I had a whole bit that it was many years ago or whatever, a few years ago when it came out, but like they later made that documentary 13th, which is all about that too. Michelle Alexander's book, which is fucking The New Jim Crow, which is a great book. And we should immediately, and I've made this argument again, it's on the album, to fucking immediately have a new amendment to the Constitution fully abolishing slavery, take out the exception clause in the 13th Amendment, so there's no except as a punishment for a crime. Right. But no, human slavery is abolished. No fucking caveats, no fucking footnotes. Human slavery is abolished. That should be done immediately. Won't be, because we live in a fucking shit world, but should be.
See, even right there, you undermine your own point, being like it's not going to happen because we live in a shit world.
I think it should happen. I'm not optimistic. It could happen. It could happen. It will take people playing some very good chess to surpass the very profitable sets of industry,
or someone making enough money to buy the right cards.
Right, that's the point. Is that oftentimes collective action on the part of the population either funds a politician, grassroots style, or
Well, that's another reason why I think social media hurts us a little bit. Is that and why we have such a polarized state of society? Is that I think the internet now has been. I don't know if it's actually the by the hand of some actual actor, or if it just is something that happens naturally. But because now there's so many different issues that are being brought to the forefront. It's harder now than ever for the country to unify against one particular thing. The idea of us all unifying against war, it happened in a way.
Again, let's be specific. It's not just the hippie shit against war, because that was again too vague. Obviously,
right,
because
but it
didn't
was
really do a sufficient amount of
stuff. Trying to accomplish what you
but
want.
what I'm talking about is a very specific legal prohibition against the exploitation of war, whether it be for
profit
or for power.
You think they would have been down for that? You think the hippies wouldn't have been down?
Totally would have been down for that, but they didn't have the specification. If they had the specifics, you might have succeeded.
All the time.
Well, I'm happy that they were getting high and fucking. That was a very good thing too.
I don't know,
but I'm just saying that we could have used more explicitness, more clarity, more exactness.
Right, and what I'm saying is that it's harder than ever to get. That's my point, though. Is that a bunch of people came together during that time,
right?
To basically rally against one particular cause. They were all trying to get one thing to happen, which basically, end war and make peace and love. And it still wasn't specific enough. For something like that to happen again now and be even more specific, damn near impossible. I mean,
no, it's totally feasible.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not optimistic, but it is feasible.
No, because you have so many more outlets now to destabilize that shit.
Yes.
Remember Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, they fucked that. They
much like the hippie organization, not enough concrete ideas of what they wanted to have done, but also now we have documented evidence of how the military and the FBI were sending in people in there to disrupt it and help make it
subverting it. Yeah.
Right. So
which is a common and should be illegal. Domestic intelligence is supposed to be illegal in the United States.
Yeah, but at the end of the day,
they get away with it.
At the end of the day, your plebs are happy to be even living in a free society, because you see, the average American, they want to live like a rock star without actually earning any of
the average American has a 6th grade mind. Like that's been measured.
Oh yeah,
that's a problem.
Oh shit.
Again, as I've argued, I think earlier in this very podcast, that the people we are raising suckers on purpose for economic gain. I argue again that there's more economic gain in raising smart people, but a backwoods, ignorant corporate elite will not realize that. Apparently.
It's also easier to raise suckers than it is to raise intelligent
Well, yeah, it's path of least resistance. That's true to some extent. But it's not that hard to see that more smart people, while it might subvert your ability to sell them the ring toss game, it will increase their output and your ability to sell them more complicated things and their ability to create more complicated things that are more profitable, because profit in large part comes from innovation. So if they, and that's economists, that's a rule.
I don't know, dude. I think smart people are the ones who decided to exploit suckers, and that's why I think if you get smart enough, you get high enough on the mountain, you're just like, you know what, actually, there's not as much value for me. You become smart enough to realize, like, you know what, I could either spend my life trying to raise the bar for idiocies, or I could actually just like enjoy my life and take advantage of all these schmucks who are happy living in dirt.
And yes, those people are smarter than suckers, but I'd argue that there's an even smarter person who goes, you know what, we should actually not do that. We should exploit smart people.
Well, you have an idea of an enlightened God who, reaches a certain level of intellect where they're able to look past.
No, it's not like an enlightened God. These are real people. In fact, some of the founders of this country thought that way. They were not the founders, by the way, that took over when, there were people like Thomas Paine and Ben Franklin who, however flawed they were much less flawed than people like George Washington and fucking other more authoritarian militaristic pricks of the era. Yeah. So if we had, and you run into the old problem of the anti-authoritarian, the enlightened thinkers like Franklin and Paine didn't want political power for themselves because they were so enlightened or whatever. Yeah. They were happy, like, being philosophical, trying to foment the same sort of enlightenment revolution around the world. But we really should be taking their logic, their enlightenment, their fucking methods, in that it's better to make smarter people. It is not better to exploit dumb people. Yes, exploiting dumb people is smarter than not exploiting dumb people, but it is not smarter than exploiting smart people. So if you can figure out a way to exploit making people smarter, there's a lot more money in that. It's harder to get, maybe initially, because it's not the path of least resistance, but it's there.
I think it's ideal, but I think, like, you can meet smart people who are completely immoral and do things that are terribly, like, insidious and selfish. Like, that's the thing. I think we all too often associate smartness with, like, an ultimate good.
Right, but what I'm arguing that those people who do that are people where their reason has been corrupted into a sort of mindless self-interest. They are smart, but they, based on desperation, which is induced by our culture also, which means it foments more of that in unethical activity.
I don't know, dude. I think some people are just selfish.
That's true, but all people are selfish given certain parameters. We know that if people are desperate, they become increasingly selfish and ruthless.
That's true. I agree with that. Yes.
So if we know that that's an engine, despite the fact that there, if that's an issue, despite the fact that there are people that are going to be horrible psychopaths, whatever, that's a very small percentage. The vast majority of people will be shitty if given shitty circumstances. We know that, so we can fix those shitty circumstances and make people, it's similar to the argument.
Are people in Finland, like, are overall very happy and, like,
Denmark and the Scandinavian countries are considered the happiest.
Despite the fear that Russia's going to come in any day and take over.
Yeah. Despite that, and Finland feels that more than Denmark does, but despite that, they're known as Scandinavian countries are the happiest because a lot of depression and anxiety comes from the fucking corporate foot that's stepping on everybody's throat here.
So what makes you live here, not Finland?
I mean, first of all, path of least resistance. I am already here. It would be expensive as fuck and very difficult to get approval to live in another country. But they I don't think it's easy to just up and move to another country. That you have to get fucking whatever visas and all this shit. That, like, there's a lot of bureaucracy to go through to even in one of those more optimal. But my point again is not that Finland is fucking great and America sucks.
I'm just trying to figure out
good
like,
traits and bad
traits. And that's my point, though, is that I guess is that, like, just like, there's something about America that makes it like a country that everyone loves and looks up to and enjoys.
Yeah, a lot of propaganda because everybody thinks they're going to do the Scarface thing and come here and get rich. That's part of the propaganda that everybody in the world wants to come here because they want to live the fantasy.
We're a country that basically makes you believe like you could become a king.
Oh yeah, that's our biggest selling point, is come here to become a king. That is
anyone can make it.
Anyone can make it, which is a total marketing lie, but it is one that works. And some people, if they are sufficiently cagey and smart,
so we're kind of like the
really,
Las Vegas of
really
countries.
Competitive and really, yes, very much so, very much so. We're the Vegas. Come
here,
gamble your life here.
You can make it big.
You can make it really.
You can get
big.
Laid. We got sex. We got women. We got toys. We got plenty. We got plenty of places to go to play with rides and shit.
Suckers here. We do that, It's
Anyone
basically
can
like
make it. All you need is a chip and a chair.
And start
America.
A casino, basically. Come to Vegas and start a casino. That's that you have to. You can't just go to Vegas and win. You have to go to Vegas and build something that exploits suckers.
Yeah,
and that's build a casino.
Big in Vegas.
But what I'm arguing is that we shouldn't be doing that. We should be building things that actually create more profit than a casino. Casino creates a lot of profit. But if your entire economy is based on a fucking casino, then you get that Back to the Future 2 scenario where Trump is the president. And it's, where we're at. You get what I'm saying? Like,
I get what you're saying. I wish I had more knowledge about it. I wish I had more interest in it. I wish I was a little. I guess maybe.
Did.
I guess maybe I'm
me.
Just as apathetic as the next person. That's why I don't post about Facebook.
Because it's also, again, it's a path of deep resistance.
Well, it's also just a matter of like, what do I want to spend my life creating, and what do I want to spend my life going after? You know what I mean?
Practicality gets in the way of good ideas all the fucking time.
It's like, and I guess that's what America has going for it, is just the human selfishness. You know what I mean? Like, just the whole attitude of like, well, I could spend my life trying to make a dent in the world and make a better prison system, or help take down the military industrial complex, or I could just
start a casino.
Or I could just make people laugh and make a lot of money and raise a family, which is what I ultimately want.
Yeah, everybody wants that whole classic Last Temptation of Christ situation. Like, well, what if he didn't do that? He could have had a family. You never saw the movie. Okay.
Never.
Spoiler alert! I just spoiled the movie.
He could have had a family.
That was
That's what the whole Mel Gibson movie is about?
Yeah, okay, so don't watch that movie ever.
Is that Passion of Christ about or Last Temptation?
Last Temptation. Isn't that what I said?
I was making sure.
Willem Dafoe, not fucking Jim Caviezel.
Oh,
not
so
the
it's
Mel
Willem
Gibson
Dafoe. Okay.
Ignorant bullshit, but the very enlightened Scorsese movie from the 80s that got a
so
lot
the whole
of
idea was he could have had a family, but he gave it up.
There was a hypothetical that was entertained in the end.
Okay.
And it was a very interesting one, and it is a common one, again, for everyone. Sorry to spoil the movie. It's a classic.
I haven't seen it.
I suck. But the point is, for every situation, there is a whole level of other options where you could have taken an easier option, or you could have taken
right. Whoa.
A more, the thing almost fell on the floor.
That was a good catch, man.
I caught the mixer or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of other options instead of the ruthless option, and you can see it again, even with the slightly unethical choices that people make all the time because of practicality or desperation. You could still see variations and gradations lower than that, like the guy that steals purses, or the guy that fucking just kills people and steals their money all day long until he gets caught.
Yeah.
There's increasingly desperate, increasingly stupid options that are more and more horrific, and then there's increasingly better options that are less and less horrific, and we should be recognizing that, first of all, that it's not just a choice between having the family life or the fucking activist life or whatever, but it's this whole, there's all these gradations between.
I guess my philosophy in life, my principle is that as long as people are living by, my philosophy is that as long as you're living by your principles, as long as a person has principles that they want to instill in the world.
Principles suck.
Well, here, what I find most often is it's not so much that principles suck, as that people have a lack of principles. People say they care.
That's
people
true.
say they.
But some principles do suck.
Some of them do, but more often than not, the average person I meet, because I ask people,
right? The average sucky person is someone without principles.
I'll say, "What are your principles?" I'm like, I don't.
Right? Huh?
Yeah, I want to pretend like they say stuff. They say stupid shit like "be good to others," but they don't even say that. They really don't even have the ability to formulate what it is you're asking for.
They don't have the experience. They have the ability. They just never encountered that experience.
They don't have.
Maybe they never read Pilgrim's Progress. I'm
joking. You can't lift up 50 pounds if you don't have the muscle for it, because you don't have the ability to, and you don't have the experience of lifting up enough weight.
Right. It takes practice.
They don't.
Yes,
they don't
the
think that way.
Muscle is takes practice.
And those people who I find to be in the majority, and I don't mean even The vast majority.
And again, we're
like
not being righteous here. We're considering ourselves relative pieces of shit.
It's not righteous. What I just said. My philosophy is that like if you're a person who has principles and you stand by those principles and you try to bring those principles into the world, you make sure you live a life that stands for those principles. Then I think you're doing what you need to do. And that's what I try to do. I know what my principles are.
That's fairly static, simplistic. Doing what you need to do. Everybody, we could all constantly improve.
Well, let me put it this way. You're all right in my book, then. Okay.
But point is, we gotta not.
My
be
argument, and this is my version of your adamant. Like, let's take down society and let's destroy the military-industrial complex. And
your words.
I know. But my version of your fight is like we got to get rid of the military-industrial complex. We got to get rid of slavery. We got to be more like Finland. And the most
and less like Finland in many ways too.
Right. I'm simplifying. But my point is that's your fight. My fight is my belief, and your belief is if everyone was smarter, we'd have a better society.
It's possible.
My belief, my crusade, so to speak, is that I believe if everyone knew what their principles were and lived by them and challenged their principles, they tried to live as truly by their principles, we'd have a better world.
Yeah, and I would argue that is synonymous with smarter. As in not ingrained intelligence,
I guess I think I'm a pretty fucking
and
stupid person. I think I'm pretty stupid as far as people go.
So I guess there are different domains of intelligence, and yes, I am considering by smart people who are more enlightened, people who are more wise, people who account for and consider their ideals regularly and principles, whatever.
I think there's emotional and intellectual maturity to somebody who meditates on their principles daily.
Yeah, and I was oversimplifying by saying that that's smarter.
Yeah, I guess you know what it is. It's like I think we both can agree that we've met a lot of religious people who don't come off as very like deep thinkers.
In fact, religion is often a means for people. A disguise for people who are completely vapid and empty, ethically
and yet I mean a lot of religious people who have
insanely
so that
they can
great
pretend
principles.
Like they have these principles.
And yet I meet some who follow their principles very well, and I have
much less frequent.
What?
Much less frequent.
Right, but I'm just saying. But that's a great counterexample to like not necessarily intelligent, not necessarily using a lot of logic or thought, but still embodying some great ethics and morals that I can stand by as far as principles and attitudes.
Yeah, but again, the vast majority are there. Seemingly, to me, they seem like they're there to disguise their impiety.
The majority of people have no principles.
Piety.
Majority of people are looking for rules to follow so they can get what they want.
Or they're looking for the appearance of goodness, that they can say, I'm part of this club, so therefore I am good, and all the shitty things I do are good. I think we said
the same thing. Because if you're trying to find rules that you can follow what you want, you're trying to figure out how do I look like a good person? How do I follow the path to getting what you want?
Right.
They don't want to look like a good person because they want to be good people. They want to look like a good person because they want what they want to get.
Yeah, it's all a selfish exercise.
Right. They're trying to find rules they can follow to get what they want. That's most people. It's sad. But
yes, let me really quick do this before you say but. Just so I can make sure it doesn't do the same thing it did last time.
So is it a certain amount of time that it goes for?
Whoops. Right. That's correct. Okay, continue.
So is it a certain amount of time that it goes for?
I'm guessing. I don't know, but it cut here before, so I'm cutting it before it gets to that, just in case.
Methodical.
But yeah, you were saying, but.
Well, all I know, my point is that like what I do to try to make the world better is I try to embody my principles and I challenge people to look into their principles. Like I'm not. You should be smarter.
That did sound kind of like a lecture-y. All this, I'm
didactic a bit.
Yeah,
perhaps.
I challenge people to. I often sound.
No, I'm the absent-minded professor. I'm the guy who's just like full of himself and thinks that an educated, intellectual attitude will overcome. But then I'm thankful that I have this kind of like animalistic, primal part of me that reminds me, like, no, people don't do that. People have fists. They have guns. People very often will go to the path of least resistance to getting what they want and act like animals.
Yeah, because we're still subjected to physics.
But that's why I try to be. I guess I've grown to fall more towards that. The only change you can't change minds. You can just inspire people.
You can change minds. I mean,
but it's
with
just
logic,
it's just like
with reason.
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Oh no! Don't get me wrong. I am cautiously pessimistic about this world.
The most changes I've seen in people, the most changes I've seen people have been inspired by example. They've seen someone do something, and it's inspired them to be a better person.
Yeah, that is better because that's a more full convincing than an argument. An argument is just a verbal whatever. To see someone do it and succeed is a much better argument.
That's and I mean, to succeed, but to do something, to stand for something.
That's what I mean. I don't mean succeed like succeed. I mean like to see them
I'm still blown away that Socrates
that is a good example.
Willingly drank hemlock.
Plato made it all up.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Some philosophers speculate.
I'll believe a guy in tattered
maybe
jeans
he was probably a real guy. Point is that scenario has happened many times where someone willingly became a martyr. Usually when they were old as shit and going to die anyway because they wanted to go out on top.
That's a horrible way to go.
But oftentimes in the Jim Caviezel way.
Yeah.
When they were 30 and they had a lot to lose.
And that stuff inspires you.
I mean, the Jesus shit doesn't inspire me, but I get how it does inspire a lot of people.
He's a composite character.
At best, that's what I say. Yes, it's on my album, The Claude Confusion album EP, fully downloadable for free and available on my YouTube channel.
Oh man, that's probably a good time for us to wrap this up. Actually,
yeah. Let's do a couple more because I want to make sure. What do we got here?
We're
at an hour. With your machine here. I got to edit in a couple.
What's a few more? What is a few more mean?
What else do we have to address? I mean, we basically covered it.
I think so. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think we both I think we did a good job of standing by our virtues and our principles and what we care about.
Yes, the character of virtue.
And we had a good discussion. I mean, I wish I knew more about this. I walked into your place and saw all those books. I'm just like, Jesus, dude, I don't even know how you have the discipline, but I admire it. I want to I wish I was more knowledgeable. But the reality is,
those books are all for show.
Oh yeah,
I've probably only read 20% of them all the way through.
Still more than I've read. I have that many books in my mom's basement.
I do that on. There's like 2,000 books.
Oh yeah,
I do that as a joke on stage
because it's 200 books you've read.
400, 20% of 2,000.
Oh yeah, I was saying 10%. Once again, dude, like I said, I'm a fucking idiot.
It's a joke, but it's true.
Wait, you've only read 10%, 20% of them?
Yeah, approximately. Yeah,
but you've skimmed through all of them. I feel like
I have read little parts of many of them.
Yeah, I feel like.
But because again, with anything, I don't read linearly. You know, like almost all of them. You know, there's some fiction, but there's mostly vast majority are nonfiction.
So I'm working on not reading linearly because I really.
I mean, if you're reading a story, you have to. But
I'm trying to read knowledge more with just like read what you need and what you're looking for. Like in research. Don't. Yeah, just
but also
I
read cover to cover oftentimes. But what I'm saying is, in a nonfiction book, you can read many books at the same time. You're not following a storyline.
Right.
So I can be reading a number of different books at the same time. And pick back up wherever,
Right. No, I'm trying to do that more. I used to read back to front every book. I would not read I would not pick up another book till I finished the book I was reading.
Yeah, I've had people tell me you have to do it that way, and I'm like, what the?
Yeah,
fuck is wrong with your
I've
mind?
learned from talking to other people who are way more intelligent than me the way they read. It's better just to get information where you're looking for information.
Yeah, and one of the joys. I hate linearly. Okay, one book till the end. Now another book to the end. Right. That is fucking horrific. Like I've opened so many loops or whatever as far as like. I'm probably, like you said, there's hundreds of books that I've just read like one chapter of or part of in some capacity, But then the ones that I finish are the ones that I thought were the most interesting or most important or whatever, and I learned a fuck ton from, So it's with nonfiction you can do that. I can read a political science book and get to chapter 2, be reading this math book, get to chapter 4, be reading this fucking history book and get 2/3 of the way through. By the time I read chapter 3 of this other book,
I'm working on doing stuff like that more.
Yeah, I've just found that it's more fun. Nature. It's less, authoritarian, bureaucratic. Like you must go this way.
Of course, with you, it's of course it comes back down to like I'm not going to be a cog of the man.
The way that people say like you must do this and then this. You could do things in any order you want.
Well, I think it's because I think most people also grow up from reading
with
books.
Most things.
I think most people grow up reading books from a narrative perspective, so it becomes a natural attitude.
Again, I'm talking
I want all the information. You know what I mean? Right. But I've learned you can skim and still learn a lot.
Not skim. I'm not talking about skimming. I'm talking about. I mean, you could learn something from skimming, but what I'm saying is I'm reading like. Chapter at a time here and there in like 20 different books at once.
Yeah, I know.
And it's nonfiction, so I don't have to keep track of a story, so I'm getting the information
but
just the same.
But something you've never even gone back to.
Yes, that's true.
Right, that's skimming.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
To me.
Some of them, I read a chapter and I was like,
Right. You're just going, okay.
Because you prioritize, and that's how you find better and better shit too. Because you're
right.
You're not wasting your time with.
You're not committing. Like, I know I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of this, but I want to make sure I finish it on the off chance that maybe I'll retain some more information. It's better off to be like, and that's something that I wish you could teach high schoolers, because I think they end up reading a lot of books they don't need to.
Oh yeah, and they oftentimes are reading crappy fiction books when they could be reading.
Yeah, like that piece of shit Gatsby and Catch in the Rye and.
Yeah, there's any number of considered classics that are good, whatever, technically, but like.
No, I actually agree. I don't. The older I get now, especially with the way that literature and entertainment is evolving, I look at like Great Gatsby. I'm like, why are they reading that? Like, what is it really teaching them? Because that's classic literature, but it's not modern literature.
Right.
And I mean, it's not factual. It's a representation of a time. It's not necessarily like actually transporting you to the
that thing off the
it's not actually transporting you to that location. My point is just like, at the end of the day, it's just a story. It's relevant. It's a story that at the time was very profound.
Right.
But for me, that means it's a great piece of literature if you really love literature, and it's a great piece of history if you really want to understand that time period and what was resonating with people.
Right.
But if you want to like educate kids and have them read more and like have them understand how to write a book,
yeah,
I don't think that's going to be helpful.
Right, exactly. Or write a story, like and there's lengths too. Like you can introduce people into like Tolstoy. You could read War and Peace, but you will not get through that shit. I haven't read that fucking shit. It's fucking 1,600 pages, whatever.
Tried.
But the point is, Tolstoy wrote a lot of short stories too. How Much Land Does a Man Need? You can read that in like a half hour.
Yeah,
it's online for free because he's
Vonnegut. I'm a big fan
public
of his
domain.
Short stories. I don't like his novels. I like his short stories a lot.
I like both, but I've only read a couple of both. But Cat's Cradle is a fucking classic.
Yeah,
highly recommend that.
No surprise here that you are a Cat's Cradle fan. You are a walking cover for Cat's Cradle.
Wow, Conan or whatever.
You know what's funny is I barely remember the book. I got to read it again because I didn't really read it when I was in high school. I was just skimmed through it.
I didn't read it in high school either. I had a girlfriend who.
But everyone says I would.
Everyone
says I would love it too. Everyone's like, you would love that book. That is such a book for you.
Hell yeah.
I was like, yeah, sure. I'm sure it's just very dismal and nihilistic.
No, it was
uplifting, and
I found it to be. I mean, it would probably not be characterized as uplifting by most people, but it trashed authority, which is what he does very well.
That's what everyone thinks I want to do. Trash authority.
That's definitely that is what I want to do.
No, I know you want to do that. I think I just don't want anyone to be in charge of me.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, let's get this. I had a lot of fun, by the way.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Same. You got Ericson.com to take you to the phone company.
Yeah, you go to the phone company. You can just follow me at Just Ericson, at Just Ericson on Twitter, at Just Ericson on Instagram, which is where I'm mostly doing a lot of my promotions and shit like that. And you can go to my website. Yeah, that's all it is. That's all it is. I hate.
Oh, you mean where your shows are and stuff?
Yeah,
like
where
that,
my shows are,
posting
pictures of photography and stuff like that. Like just stuff that's hopefully to get people to want to like eventually give me money. I hate doing it, dude. I hate doing social media.
Well, yeah. I think everybody does. They've just been somehow convinced by the social media companies to...
a lot of people love doing it. A lot of people love
the petty bickering.
Passively doing attention. Everyone loves passive actions to get attention. I don't. I actually like
more genuine
and bigger shit. I like people to be there. I don't want to have to like...
Still want attention, but you want to get in a substantive way.
Dude, I'll be in a moment where I'm like, I should Instagram this on a story, right? And I try to pull my phone out and open up the Instagram app, and it takes like 20 seconds. By the time I finally have the thing ready, like the whole moment's passed, and it doesn't feel. It feels artificial. It doesn't even feel
inauthentic at that point.
Yeah, and I'm just like, why am I doing this? But I guess for so many people, they're so used to doing it that's just it becomes part of every moment.
And they raised it like Jesus. They raised people in it. Now each next generation is constantly doing Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Let them have it.
Snapchat, fucking. Dillbag, whatever.
I want to see movies nowadays where like the characters are talking and you just see them actually take out the phone and like Snapchat themselves because that's the future.
Didn't they FaceTime in the new Star Wars?
They did through the Force. That's hilarious that you made that reference. I had no idea you were that much of a Star Wars fan.
I fucking love Star Wars, man.
What was your feeling of The Last Jedi?
I was good. Okay. I mean, it wasn't great, okay. but it was.
So
I was
not
a hater.
Real Star Wars fan.
Cool. Look. There's nothing like Empire. There's nothing like the first one. It pretty much goes.
There's nothing like the originals.
5, 4, 6.
The originals were great stories.
And then whatever the fuck, however you want to rank the rest of them. Surely it's a cash grab, the new ones, and so were the 1, 2, 3 ones.
I don't think 1, 2, 3 were cash grabs. I think Lucas obviously saw a lot of money to be made, but I also think Lucas.
Well, he had some principles he wanted to get out to, which was good.
Yeah,
and I liked those parts of those movies a lot.
And I think Lucas at that time, I think that was actually right before he did the prequels. I think he really thought like, oh my God, I might be making one of the most amazing fucking sagas of like our time. But I think that unfortunately with money and power and the ability and clout, you lose sight of things. And I think who he was when he made Star Wars, it was very different than who he was when he made the prequels.
I don't know a lot about it, but it's my understanding that he did a lot of collaboration in the early ones that he wasn't necessarily as open to later.
Yeah, but I think it all comes from a source of restriction. He was way more restricted during. I haven't finished the first book yet, but I've been reading the books about how they were made.
Yeah,
the whole process.
Well, there were other directors, there were other writers that played it.
Other directors, other writers.
So, and like I say, everybody loves 4 and 5 best, and for good reason.
And also,
but I still enjoy the shit out of all of them.
No precedent. That's the other thing too. Is there was no precedent. Once you made those 3 films, there's this idea of like, okay, there's a certain expectation of like how good these films are.
You can never match that kind of caliber.
That's why when Attack of the Clones came out and when Last Jedi came out, everyone's like, is it as good as Empire? Because everyone wants the middle one to be the best.
No, but they also want another great one. They want them to be dark and fucked up and good. And but that's again not where our culture is. Again, we increasingly America is exploiting suckers and raising suckers. So in the 70s, you had the opposite effect. America had been making people smarter through the 60s and 70s, and then it's turned around by the time the 80s. No,
great movie. You should watch it.
Is that
it'll break your heart because it's kind of a swan song for like a time back when America really cared about making people smarter.
Oh, okay, well then that was the point I was making. To some extent, there of course was still the corporate douchery and other.
Well, that's what it's about. It's about the true story about the old quiz shows and how they were rigged.
Yeah. But the point is like Empire. The first one, 4, is fucking spectacular.
Yeah, it's amazing film.
Empire Strikes Back is extraordinary because it wasn't just a happy ending situation. It was fucked up, and is one of the best movies of all time. So it's going to be very difficult to do. Same with you get the same thing with Indiana Jones, fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark, extraordinary best movie of all time, and then you get fucking Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
sequels oftentimes are just not as good for a variety of reasons and.
Well, you're trying to recapture that same magic.
Yeah, and they're not even trying to do it in the genuine way in which that magic was originally captured. They're just trying to slap this superficial name and face on it and have it come out like that. They should be going for that. I think they should try, to really... And they, to some extent, the newer ones did have Kasdan involved, all right?
They had what?
Lawrence Kasdan or whatever the fuck. The writer of Empire. He was...
I think he was involved in Solo. Oh, no, his son was. His son wrote Solo, if I remember correctly.
But I think he wrote one of the new ones.
Maybe
Force Awakens.
Maybe he wrote
or Last Jedi.
Last Jedi was Ryan Johnson who wrote it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
he directed and wrote that one.
Force Awakens, I think, was cast.
They really liked Ryan. They really wanted him to be the next Lucas. They really were hoping.
Maybe is he not going to be? Oh no, that's right. JJ's doing the next one.
They are also going to give him his own trilogy, but I think they dropped it.
Really?
Well, here's the thing. Like, despite the fact that like a lot of people will say the movies are great, there is clearly a tremendous amount of people who are very disenfranchised with Star Wars now. Last Jedi came out, was very polarizing. Then Solo came out and had a the worst turnout for a Star Wars movie in history. Which one was that? Solo, the one about.
Yeah, I never even saw it.
There you go.
It was a spin-off.
A lot of people. So Disney, thinking they had a slam dunk with all these movies they had lined up,
trying to marvel
put the brakes. Put the brakes on everything they had planned. We're like, let's put out this last one.
I don't keep up with entertainment
see how
news.
People respond, and then we'll move on there. And they're also pivoting their focuses on to the television, realizing that there's a little bit more money and leeway in that area. Because people are going to be more open to smaller stories and just visiting the world by watching auxiliary stuff on television. But when you have a big movie event, it's just hard to get people to come out. They feel like it's not going to be as seminal.
No, but if it's good, it gets people to come out.
But what gets people to come out? What gets people to come out before they even know it's good is the feeling of it being seminal, of it being like this is going to be as good, if not better, than Empire Strikes Back. And they had that with Force Awakens because they're like, oh my God. With Force Awakens, you have, oh my God, Star Wars is back. And this time they're going to do it right. They're going to we're finally going to see what happened to our favorite characters. Right. It's a continuation. Then Force Awakens comes out and everyone's like,
it was good.
Okay, that's a repeat of the same first one. But I mean, okay, let's see where you're going to go with this.
New ground really
and
a
then
lot.
Last Jedi was coming out and they're like, okay, this is where we're going to see where things are going. This is going to be like where all those questions we had in the first one, they're going to be answered. Luke Skywalker, we're finally going to see him.
Right.
We're going to get everything we've always wanted. And then we saw it, and it was like, that was not what...
It was good, but not like...
I thought it was horrible. And every time I try to watch the movie, I hate it more and more.
No, I like it.
It's a very boring movie.
I could see, again, nothing is as good as Empire Strikes Back.
No, see, that's the fallacy that people make. It's not even about that. It's not a good movie on its own. There's no tension. There's no
okay, I'm just saying.
Stakes.
I enjoyed it. What I really like, I think, is what people potentially misunderstand about it. Is what I really liked was something that
an old guy in tattered clothes with a big old beard trying to make people understand that they got to just stop being a piece of the system. I totally see what resonated with you, buddy.
No. What really resonated with me was the fact what a movie rarely does, where it went on a dead end. Like, I liked that. A lot of people bitched about that.
You liked that it ends on a dead end?
No, I liked that it went on a dead end. That the whole time you thought, oh, this plan, like it usually works out. All this stuff with warfare and all this stuff where everybody thinks it's all, and in the other movies, oftentimes it's expressed, right. It's going to be clean, it's going to work. This plan works, then we do this, then we do that. Everything works. Everything failed in that movie. That was a great thing about that every plan they had.
Conceptually, that's a great idea. And I saw what they were trying to do. They were trying to do this idea of like everything we're going to do is going to fail, but everything they tried had no weight to it.
I mean, depending on, whatever. It's a very difficult premise to like you said, to do well. It's a unique thing. I liked the fact that they attempted to do the fucking, the fact that you think it's going to work out because it always works out.
It doesn't in the movie. I don't think I stated that because it never came up. But I will say this. I always appreciate what the movie was trying to do. Everything it's trying to do, I think, is great.
Hell yeah.
Trying to say, like, we got to let go of the old series and just move on with the new stuff. Trying to show Luke maybe in a different light than we remember him as, and showing him falling from grace. Totally, I could see that.
But you're saying the execution of it could have been better.
The execution of it was lazy,
and
lazy
very
thoughtless.
Writing-wise,
mostly writing-wise. I mean, the performances. I think all the actors are trying to perform as well as they possibly can. But the best example is like so. You literally are replicating everything. First of all, it's replicating every scene from Empire.
Yeah.
You have a space chase,
Force Awakens with the
you have a space chase, but instead of it being through an asteroid field, they're just literally cruising through space until they run out of gas.
Right.
Like all the tension is gone because there's no. It's like, well, either they're going to figure out a way out of this, which we don't know the rules, so we don't know how they can figure a way out of this. So either they're going to eventually find a way out of this, or they're not. Right. We don't know we don't know what they could possibly do.
Again, I think you're even a much bigger Star Wars fan than I. I just enjoy.
This is outside of Star Wars, though. This is just logic. It's just like, okay, I understand they're in space, and apparently the problem is that they can't hyperdrive because they'll run out of gas.
Right. So you want full nerd on this?
No,
there's plot holes in every movie. There's plot holes in the originals.
I know there is, but what I'm saying is, in that moment, I don't understand where the drama is. I'm just waiting for you to show me what happens.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. And again, they're nothing compared to the original. And let me tell you, what's your favorite? Like, Empire is the best Star Wars movie, one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yes.
What is your favorite scene in that movie? Because I have one. Obviously,
my favorite
I have one.
scene in the movie?
And it is one of my favorite scenes, if not my favorite scene in every movie. And it's one, actually, that has a... Okay, just go with yours first. So, as this is the classic alley-oop, so that I can say something.
Yeah. I really do like the asteroid field chase. I like what happens in that cockpit. I like how small and claustrophobic and stuck they are, and how there's a tremendous amount of drama happening in a scene where it's just people stuck in a room, basically.
Hell yeah. No, it was badass. It was very badass.
My favorite scene... God, there's so many great lines, but my favorite scene is... Yeah, I'm just gonna say everything that happens in the cockpit when they're trying to escape the Imperials.
No, it's fucking badass. That movie is wall to wall awesome scenes.
I'll say also it's also the one place in the movie where they also that scene is also the one place where they do something very corny and nonsensical that has a huge plot hole that makes no sense. The way they escape makes no sense.
And yet they did it so well.
Well, just that the movie's doing such a good job that you let it go after a while. You're just like,
suspend
whatever.
Disbelief
because you've enjoyed the characters so much,
well done.
And you understand it's like, well, they have to get away, and they still don't get away anyway.
Right. Hell yeah.
It kind of stalls them one more time just so you can have them get chased again.
Right.
What's your alley-oop?
My favorite scene in it is when Han shot first.
In Empire Strikes Back? How, at the Darth Vader?
Yeah, everybody knows the Guido one, or well, not the Guido one, the Greedo one. Fuck. The Greedo,
that's a great scene.
The Greedo scene, but they never. When everybody says Han shot first, Han shot at Vader first, and that's the best shit. They're in Cloud City. The fucking door opens, and instantly when the door opens, he sees Vader, and he fucking pulls out the gun and shoots.
You know
him.
what's great, about that moment for me is that I did
seen.
not. When I watched the movie the first time, I missed the scene where Boba Fett follows them, where you see Boba Fett's like watching them leave, so he knows where to follow them. I totally didn't even see that scene, but it still all made logical sense to me because in my mind it was just like, oh right, it's the Empire. They're everywhere.
Right. But like to me, everything about that scene is so fucking perfectly shot. Like the angle change of the camera, the fucking instantly when the door goes to or whatever, and he immediately looks, you see him see Vader, immediately pull his gun. He does, Vader hasn't done shit.
Right.
He is in assassination mode and just fucking shoots Vader. Vader, of course, forces away the laser or whatever.
Right.
But in the moment, as he's pulling the gun, it's the best Chewbacca noise of all the Star Wars.
Oh, yeah?
Chewbacca immediately sees him too and is like, blah! You know, it's so fucking awesome.
Right, yeah.
It's
a great
fucking
moment.
Awesome. Yeah.
And it's simple.
And it's funny. And it's over like that. And they fucking immediately put Han and Chewie and whatever.
That's a great scene.
It's so like, because it's a surprise. It's a fucking, again, I don't know why more people don't do the Han shot first with that. No, I've never, all the arguments over Han.
I'll tell you why, dude. There's no contest. There's like, everyone knows he shot first.
It's Han versus Vader. That's a fucking...
Right, but that's not the. You're missing the argument, and I think
I understand
ignoring it. Yeah.
The argument though originally was that he had to ethically in the scenario he was being threatened by Greedo, but he wasn't.
Well, the way I always read the original is that he is a scoundrel. He is a smuggler. He is a criminal, and he has dubious morality. So that way, when he finally does show up to fight with the rebellion, you've seen a dramatic change in who this guy is. He's no longer just looking out for himself. He's looking out for other people. That's the way I always read it. Apparently, Lucas swears to God that like he had 10 extra frames that he meant to add the whole time, which is like. I mean, if you want to die on that hill, fine.
But I just like in that other scene though. I like the fact that Han Solo thinks that he can shoot Darth Vader with a gun.
Well, no, but it's like in the moment, of course. but no, that still makes sense for his character.
Of course.
Remember, in the last one, he didn't believe in the Force.
That's true.
He doesn't
really think that the Force is real.
There's no excuse for a good blaster.
But he's also wearing armor, so he.
Well, it's also
he deflects
the Force.
The fucking
like
it's so he uses the Force and he uses his hand.
I mean, if you read the scene today, now he'd stop the blaster in midair.
Right,
and hold it. As
but the way it was done, there was a lot of fucking impact in it. You know, sparks flying and shit. It was fucking great. It was so great. It's so funny.
I would not want them to freeze the blaster because the way that it hits him in the like you said, the sparks and shit makes you see how imposing Darth Vader is.
Oh yeah,
he's the only character that you could get away with that with because he's so powerful.
Yeah, everything about it is kind of like it's preordained. Han Solo probably knows too, even though he doesn't believe in the Force. He's like, I'm probably not going to be able to kill this guy.
No, I think he actually thought he had a shot. I think
he's going to try anyway.
Yeah,
but the it's so funny that like because it's Vader. It's like
I just love that he hits the hand and then he just pulls the gun out of his hand and takes it.
Yeah,
and it's this moment of complete like just
and then they eat dinner.
Weakness. Yeah, he's like, I would love it if you joined us.
Which is probably some old. It's probably a rehashing of a swashbuckling scene in some fucking old Count of Monte Cristo style book or whatever. But it's so fucking.
And we don't get things like that anymore.
And again, the Chewie sound that Chewie makes, the yell. Then
I'll have to watch it again. I have the originals now, so I want to watch them again.
Like as far as all the audio of Chewie, which I love, all the audio, that's the best one I've ever heard.
I'll watch them all over again.
Yeah, we'll watch it in a minute after this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
We said we were going to end in like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, well, you get me about. You know what's funny is I just started watching a bunch of like old YouTube videos on the Last Jedi, and I finally been.
And you got convinced by a lot of idiots.
I always hated it. But I didn't want to say it out loud because I was like, I can tell this is one of those movies that if you openly say you hate it, you're going to be like marginalized as like one of those.
I think everybody said it was pretty good, but could have been a lot better. Like every Star Wars movie since Empire.
Like I think it's actually here's the thing. This happened after I saw the movie. When the credits went up, my first thought was, I actually kind of like the Phantom Menace. I'm not even kidding. It made me miss the Phantom Menace.
Dude, there were parts of Last Jedi that I thought were so fucking awesome. That it didn't matter anything else. Just like same with Return of the Jedi or fucking especially 2 and 3. Like I thought certain parts of like the awesome philosophical political parts of 2 and 3 about democracy and shit like that were so good that it made up for all the garbage in the movie. And in fucking Last Jedi, that fucking the fucking the suicide plane into the fucking thing was so hilarious and so well shot into the fucking Imperial ship.
Right, the hyperspace.
That hyperspace.
It's a beautiful scene. It makes no sense.
Yeah. No, to me it made sense.
So why? If they could do that, why didn't they do that with the Death Star?
Exactly. That's always the case. Why is there fucking explosions in space in all the Star Wars?
No, that's not the question. Well, the explosions, we've already explained explosions. Like, it's like we accept that. My question is
bullshit
this.
Still.
But the question is this. If you can use hyperspace as a weapon, why hasn't it been weaponized in the past?
Because apparently people haven't been so desperate that they were driven to suicide bombing or whatever. You know?
No one that has... You, okay.
Or maybe as far as we've seen. Remember, as far as we've seen.
This is something where you, of all people, should be on board. The first thing anyone does with any technological invention is what?
Use it for violence?
Right.
I mean,
so the idea that no one looked into hyperspace and how to
turn
this into a weapon, give me a break.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like hyperspace missiles.
Right. So
but that's one of those things too. If you really think about it, the second that hyperspace technology was invented, the whole of it should have been building missiles that are constantly shooting in every direction at hyperspeed, and you would kill everybody except for you. So I get why they never went that angle, because logically it goes into absurdum immediately.
Right, so that's why it's better off to be like, well, in hyperspace you can't hit, you'll die.
Well, they never said that you can't.
Well, actually they do. I mean, the original line was when Han's like, if we get the wrong coordinates, we'll end up flying into it. We'll end up flying into a planet, like
or an asteroid or something.
We'll end up like coming out of hyperspace in the middle of a planet and exploding. The idea
or
is
hitting it in transit. I thought.
Well, the idea you don't hit it in transit. The idea is you're literally going through a part of space where there's nothing there, but when you come out, there's hyperspace. I mean, I know actually more about it, but my point
I don't know.
The
anything
idea
about
is you're
this.
going into
my
hyperspace
point is that it
and
was
coming
beautiful,
out of it, and where you come out of it,
and
is where you land.
And it was beautifully done in the movie, even with, again, going with my previous thing about how all the characters made shitty decisions based on desperation.
Like I said, I loved that aspect and what they were going for. They just did a terrible job with it.
Or could have been better, but I still liked how it was executed in the sense of I loved that scene. There's a few other scenes. But yeah, we've gone over the fucking time.
Man.
You've got to go do whatever the fuck.
Fun, dude. Thanks for having me.
But yeah, thanks for...
Just Ericson.com or just Ericson on Instagram, guys.
And ChrisHeist.com is where you got this podcast, so I don't need to say that.
Awesome, dude. Thanks again for having me.